Hello, and welcome to today's Shorts Roundtable. I'm Paul Sloop, the Short Films Programming Manager for the Cleveland International Film Festival, or better known to most of you as the Shorts Guy. I want to take a moment here to offer special thanks to PNC for sponsoring our Filmmaker Conversations content throughout the festival. On today's roundtable, we'll be joined by filmmakers representing some of the short films included in Shorts Program 7. So, with that in mind, allow me to welcome our guests for today's conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
To get us started, I'd like to ask each of you to take a moment to introduce yourselves, your films, your role on the film, and where you're calling in from today. And we'll start with Juan.
Hi, my name is Juan, writer-director of Superman. I'm calling in from Los Angeles, California.
Hi, I'm Lucas. I'm from France, and I was a scenarist on Migrants. And yeah, I was the technical artist on the film too.
Hey, I'm Molly Ann Coogan, and I'm also calling in from LA. And I was the writer and actor and executive producer of Avalanche.
Hi, I'm Rudy. For some reason on video calls, I wave with two hands. I don't know why. But my film is called Make Him Known, and I was the director and cinematographer on the film.
Hi, my name is Yannick Karcher, and I'm calling also from France. I'm the writer-director from Kairon.
Great. Again, thank you all for taking the time to join us today. To get us started with the conversation, I'm going to ask each of you to take a moment to share what the inspiration was or what led you to make this particular short film or how you became involved in the project. Again, we'll start with Juan.
Yeah, so really it started with this article that I read a couple of years ago. I think it was in 2017 that this happened, or 2018, I'm not too sure. But this guy barges into a Waffle House with an AR-15 and underwear, only wearing underwear, and he starts shooting up the place. It's a horrific story. And this guy, James Shaw Jr., grabs the barrel of this blazing AR-15 and prevents any more casualties. And this is someone who just stepped up and became a hero in that moment, a civilian hero, a real superhero, really. And he got honored at the White House, and you can look him up. But whenever I read that, and I was thinking about doing a story with mothers, because my previous film, I was dealing with a regretful father, so I wanted to do the opposite of that and talk about bravery, because I look up to my mom. I think a lot of us really do. And so really, it's a story about bravery and his mother who's having to deal with a dangerous situation. And how does someone go about that? What does it take to muster up that courage to prevent a deadly or just dangerous occurrence from unfolding? So that's sort of how it started. That article, my own mom, seeing her work her butt off her entire life to support me as an only child, and then going from there,
Thank you. Lucas.
So our movie is a student movie we made in animation for our last year in master's degree, and we had the choice of the subject. So we wanted to talk about the migrants, the refugees, because back time there were a problem with an Aquarius. The Aquarius, I don't know if you know it in US, is a ship that rescued many migrants in the Mediterranean Sea, and no European countries wanted to welcome them on land. So they stayed a long time in the ship. So that's why we were shocked by the news, and we wanted to talk about the migrant situation, but we used the stuffed animals, polar bears, and stuffed teddy bears to talk about some subject as racism with the migrants and things like that. So yeah.
It was such an effective way to tell that story. Really made an impact.
Thank you.
Thank you. Molly.
Yeah. So Avalanche is actually based on my own story. I am a writer and an actor, and I had this comedic short film that was out. And 2 days before I was supposed to fly to LA to do this whole thing with NBC, I had a miscarriage and still went was like on the red carpet while I had like a maxi pad on. And I just remember being like, this is bananas. Like, I mean, at the time there was nothing funny about it and I was devastated, but I still put on a brave face and put on makeup and like walked down a red carpet and, you know, was shaking hands and making jokes. Meanwhile, internally, I was just devastated and wanted to be, you know, alone in pajamas, drinking a lot of wine. And after it was over, you know, 20% of pregnancies end in miscarriage. It's so common and it's still so not talked about. And I felt the need at the time to be very private about it. And so after I kind of made it through that time of my life, I was sort of looking back on it, had so many women and other people talking to me about their same experiences, and really felt important to me to kind of openly talk more, not just about miscarriage, but the way that it impacts women in their careers and this kind of smoke and mirrors act that we all have to do around something that I think should be much more widely accepted and I guess cared for. So that's where Avalanche came from.
There's an authenticity to your film that I think you just described why it was there, that you can just feel. So great job.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Rudy.
Wow, these films so far all sound amazing. I can't wait to watch them all. Our film is about Maya Moore, who many people know as a WNBA star, college star, high school star, basketball player, and her search to find justice for a man named Jonathan Irons, who she believed was wrongfully incarcerated for 23 years. You know, I was actually this film was brought to me by some producers, and they thought that I would be the right fit because I had worked with them in the past, and I had worked on previous projects that have to deal with the criminal justice system and wrongful conviction and all these things. And, you know, to be honest, before they even brought the film, I had been following Maya's journey to sort of help Jonathan for a while. And I was, you know, they barely got through the sentence before I was like, yes, I want to be a part of it. And mostly because there was this idea that, or this promise that, yeah, you would have access to Maya Moore, who, if anybody knows who Maya Moore is or has followed her in the public eye, it has only been basketball. Her personal life, anything off of the court, has always been completely hers, and she was always very purposeful about that. And so I was excited to go in and tell the story of somebody who has had a platform for a long time, has used her platform behind the scenes for so many years, but has never been really public about it, to sort of get to the root of why she has decided at this point to then take her platform, put it out there, tell her story, and sort of lift the veil on why she has done all of these things. So I was in, and I was excited, and you know, I'm very happy with the film. So that's it.
Her story in the film is a compelling story, and we're thrilled that we're going to get to share it. So thank you. Yannick.
Yeah, so it's amazing because you have all wonderful stories, and actually mine is pretty simple because the movie is adapted from a short story from an author named Mike Jackson. The story is called A Rowboat in the Cellar, and the story of a retired guy who tried to manage to escape his loneliness and his boredomness in retirement, and making a rowboat in his cellar. And I'd like the image and to talk about what can be retirement. And it's always when you in most movies you see like a wonderful thing. You can travel, you can do gardening, and sometimes it's not the case, and you just get at home. You don't have any feeling of completion because you don't do anything anymore. And this lonely guy find completing himself in making this boat. And he's gonna put his life entirely in this task, and then he's gonna work on getting his boat out of the cellar because the boat is too big, and he's gonna dig a tunnel, and so on and so on. So I like the travel he's making to accept his what is going to be his life, and eventually how he's going to die.
symbolism and imagery in your film was really, really something crazy. A fun ride, so to speak. So
Yeah, thanks.
So the other question I'd like to ask you all is to think about this for a moment. If there were one story or one thing you'd want people to know about the making of your film, almost always in the making of a short films there are things that happen or just something interesting an audience would love to know but might not guess. What would that be? Think about that for a moment and share it, and we'll ask Juan to kick us off on that.
I think I know. Yeah, there was this really interesting moment where whenever real life is really blending with this fictional construction that you're doing that's called making a movie. We were sitting on the couch, and the crew they're doing the next setup for the next scene, and the lead actress at the time was doing the actual paperwork of trying to figure out child support and custody and this and that. And in the movie, her character is a single mother who is having to argue with the other father who's not present in the kid's life, and is doing a lot of it on her own. And it's frustrating to her. It's frustrating to any mother who's going through that scenario. And so as we were just waiting, we were on sitting down talking about, how are you going to do this and that. And she was explaining that process to me. And it was a very vulnerable moment, because the scene that we were shooting is the most vulnerable moment for her. And so I thought, wow, this is an honest moment that gave me a little bit more reassurance whenever we started filming it. And this is something that she's really pulling from her own life and bringing it right now for this moment today. And I thought, and I didn't forget that. I thought that was so, actors are so vulnerable. They're completely naked for us in front of the camera. That's why I'm the number one fan of actors and actresses always, because they're just putting themselves in front of this camera, in front of all these people, trying to be quiet behind, taking their notes, making sure this is a good take, making sure the light's all right, but they're just in it, and if they're really in it, it's magic. I don't know how actors do it. I really don't. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. So I always try, whenever those moments happen, especially with an actor, there's something special about that. It makes it seem as if the story that you're telling has some resonance, so that other people will be able to pick up on that feeling whenever they watch it, So I think that specific moment was it for me.
That makes a lot of sense. We talk a lot about it with my fellow programs. One of the things that comes up a lot is about how collaborative films are and how important the authenticity, especially in a short film, because you've got to get a story told in a very short amount of time without overdoing it. And your actors are so key to that so often. And it comes through in the films that we select. That's one of the key ingredients, is having that authenticity. So great comment. Lucas, how about you?
I think one of the biggest moments in the creation of this film was at the end, when we show it to people who are not in our school, people outside, that we work maybe at the end 16 or 18 hours a day on the movie. Like we were hardworking, and we forget for a moment the meaning of our movies, and seeing emotions on people who watch it for the first time. We just all remember why we did the movie at the same time, because we wrote it to give emotion. But then for 2 years we worked hard, 18 hours a day on it, and then it's only at the end, when we saw the emotion in the eyes of the people, that we were really proud and happy to finish this movie, and we were proud of it.
You definitely produced that same emotion with our entire programming team. Much time was spent talking about just that. So nice work, really. Congratulations. Molly.
I think my kind of fun fact is, and as you were asking that, I just realized, so we, this shot in a hotel, and we had found a location. We thought the whole thing was a done deal. I think it was like 2 weeks before we were supposed to shoot, the hotel fell through, and I was freaking out, and hotels are not easy to find as a location, especially as all of filmmakers know, short films, your budget is like non-existent. And so I was like frantically calling like every hotel in LA and in Burbank, and ended up talking to a woman. And basically I was super honest and told her what the film was about. And she was like, I went through almost the same thing. Come shoot your short film here. I will figure this out and make this work. And so it was this like angel, and, you know, like my producer, Molly Ortiz, was calling places, our, my director, Heather Jack, my other exec producer, Larkin Clark, like all these other women, we were all just like going. And it really was this kind of moment of honesty with this other woman and connection over the material. And that was this sort of like angel for our film, she was. And that's how we were able to shoot where we did. And I think it elevated so much just the production value of where we were able to film that. And it made me realize that one of the other shorts that I did around the time when I had that miscarriage, we also lost a location like 4 days before we were going to shoot. And I was like biking around Brownsville in Brooklyn, and another woman came through and saved my ass then. So I guess, you know, knock on wood that my streak continues. But
those cosmic string stories are always fantastic.
Big thanks to Julie in Burbank.
That's great.
Wow.
Saved Avalanche.
That's great. Thank you, Molly. Rudy.
Yeah, so you know, I think one of the fascinating sort of behind the scenes stories or whatever that at least I find fascinating, you know, with documentary, so much of it is about trust, and it's about building relationships and sort of allowing, you know, figuring out, hopefully before you get to the meat of what you're filming, that, you know, everyone is on the same page and everybody believes in what you're making. You know, with this, I had a couple of calls with Maya or Zooms at that time before we started filming, but, you know, I like to spend time. I like to, you know, build trust over a lot of time, but all of a sudden this, you know, when you see the film, you see there's an immediacy to what's going on, and that shoot came up very quickly. And so we had to jump in, and I ran, and, you know, I was the director and cinematographer, so I spent a lot of close time with Maya over these few days that we shot the short. And what was interesting was I so badly wanted her to be comfortable enough with me to let her guard down. So in between what you see in the film, there were large moments where I turned the camera off and we would just talk. And we talked because I wanted her to feel comfortable enough. I wanted her to know my life experience and her life experience in weird ways really dovetailed with each other. And we had a lot of the same convictions about why we do what we do and why we've made choices in life that we've made. And you can kind of see in the film, there's a comfortability level that starts to happen between the subject and the camera. And, you know, at the beginning, it's almost like it's visual. You can see I'm a little farther, but by the end, we're in these tight, vulnerable moments. And it took this, you know, really trying to gain that trust and be as honest and open on both sides of the camera as possible to try and fast track some of that trust. So that if you watch it again, you can sort of see in the visuals that trust is being built from the camera and the subject matter. So you know, that's one way to like rewatch it and look at it again and say, wow, you see it. So yeah,
that evolution. That's great. Thank you, Rudy. Yannick.
The biggest moment for me on this film was actually the time I went to the set and see the studio when we had to construct the set from the film, because it's one of the crucial scene of the film is when the guy has finished his rowboat. There's a flood in his cellar, and the boat is going to float in the cellar. And after that, he's going to construct a tunnel and go with the boat and row in the cellar. So we had to find a studio that we can flood and construct this cellar. And actually, with the budget that we had, it was nearly impossible. So we arrived at some points that we decided to maybe cancel the shooting, because actually we had the third of what we needed to do the construction. And actually the set director, find all the pieces to construct it from other shooting, from TV and TV shows that we worked on. So we managed to do it. The construction of the set that you see on the movie cost us like 300 euros, and it should have cost like 50,000 euros. And actually, we managed to get the whole crew and friends who worked for a month and a half to construct that and have this realized. So actually, when I came on the set and that I see this cellar with the water, and we had like 1 meter of water and swimming in it, it was like a dream come true. Because actually, when I read the short novel, that's one of the image that made me love the idea of the film, and one of the thing that I wanted to do. And actually, with all the crew that I had, who most of them were friends who I worked with past the years, I actually had what I had in mind for all the film. We were able to shoot it, and I didn't have to do any adjustments on the film. So I was very lucky and very happy to get this crew and all these guys to do it.
Wow. You know, in addition to your films all being so strong, it's always incredible to hear some of the things that go on behind the scenes in making the film. So thank you all so much, not only for taking the time to be with us, but for sharing those stories. On behalf of everyone at the festival, again, thank you so much for joining us for this roundtable. In addition to our filmmakers, we have to thank you, our audience, for joining us for today's Shorts Roundtable. We wouldn't be here without your ongoing support to help us bring film home. We hope you'll consider supporting our challenge match again this year, presented by Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, to support the future of our festival. Our goal is to reach $145,000 this year, and we are so grateful in advance for any amount you're able to contribute. To make a donation, or to purchase tickets, or check out our full schedule of filmmaker conversations, please visit us at clevelandfilm.org. With that, please stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here again very soon.